Students, so today we'll be doing a graph, a table. The table gives information about annual salaries of 5 employment sectors in Australia in 2006. Let's see the employment sectors: sales, engineering, IT and telecommunications, education and traveling. And this is the maximum annual salary, this is the minimum annual salary, and this is the average annual salary of each of these 5 sectors. So you can see the graph mentions the highest, the lowest, and the average salaries in 5 sectors. Why is this graph different? You have to see that. Normally we mention the highest salaries, but in this graph it would be highest of the maximum, which will make the sentence formation problematic. So I'll be covering a better way to address the graph. For example, the sentence would be sales had the highest maximum salary while engineering had the highest minimum salary and the highest average salary. This sentence doesn't seem right. So let's see a better way to address it. First, we'll come to the introduction, how to frame the introduction. The graph illustrates the average salary, the maximum salary, and the minimum salary in 5 sectors in Australia in 2006. You can see this introduction is very short, very crisp, and such an introduction is very good because the examiner will not have to read it again to make out what you want to say. Many students tend to impress the examiner in the introduction by writing a lengthy introduction which has many words, and in the end up making some grammatical errors in that, and it loses its beauty. So do not impress the examiner in the introduction. A short and crisp introduction is good enough. Then we come to the overview. In overview, we usually write 2 sentences. Here, first sentence you can say you can mention the sectors with the highest and the lowest average salaries. For example, overall, comma, it is clear that engineering had the highest average salary while employees in the travel sector earned the least salary on average. You can see 80,000 Australian dollar highest and least is traveling sector. So this is the first sentence. In the second sentence, we'll mention the sectors with the biggest difference and the smallest difference in the maximum and minimum salaries. You can see maximum and minimum, maximum and minimum. Just see the difference in these. And you don't need to find the exact difference. Just let it be you can round the figures and then make the difference. So here in sales, 2,25,000, 2,25,000. So it is biggest difference. Engineering has this much difference. IT and telecommunications have this much difference. In education, the difference is the least. And in traveling, also the least. So 35,000 approximate difference in education and traveling. So you can write the sentence, sales had the biggest variation in salaries, comma, while education and traveling sector had the least variation. These 2 sentences would be very good to write in the overview. Okay. So then we come to this. This is a complete overview written here. Overall, it's clear that engineering had the highest average salary while employees in the travel sector earned the least salary on average. Also, sales had the biggest variation in salaries while education and traveling sector had the least variation. Then we come over to the body paragraphs. So in body paragraphs in BP1, we'll just organize the paragraph in descending order for average salaries. So what does descending order mean? First you will write the maximum, then what follows next, then what follows next, then then these two follow next, and then this is this. I haven't mentioned number 4 here because these two are the same. So these are 3, and then this is the least, in the descending order. You can say from highest to the lowest. Let's see how the paragraph will turn out to be. In detail, the average salary in engineering was around 80,000 AUD. It was followed by sales with an average salary of 70,000 AUD. In IT and telecommunication, the average salaries were this and this, were this less than sales. Okay. In IT and telecommunication, the average salaries were 20,000 AUD less than sales. So this is 50,000. You can say it is 20,000 less than sales. Finally, the least salaries were earned by employees in the traveling sector at 45 AUD. okay, at 45 AUD. So let's see this at 45 AUD. All right. It should be at here. Okay. In BP2, we'll organize according to the difference. First, we'll mention the sectors with the large difference, and then we'll mention sectors with comparatively less difference. Okay, so these two sectors have big difference, and these three sectors have small difference. So we can write according to that. Let's see. With regard to maximum and minimum salaries, sales had the highest variation in salaries, with a maximum salary of this and minimum salary of only this. In engineering also, there was a large variation in salary, and you can put that in the bracket around this much and this much respectively. Then this is 1,45,000 and 38,500. That's fine. By contrast, IT and telecommunication, education and traveling sector, the difference in salary was less substantial. This T should be small. In IT and telecommunication, the maximum salary was around this 1 lakh AUD, while the minimum was around 60,000 AUD, less than the maximum. So the maximum salary was 1 lakh, approximately 1 lakh. A round word is for approximately, and then this was like less than the max 60,000 AUD, less than that. So 40 or approximately 40, 60,000 less. All right. Finally, in education and traveling, the difference in salary was only around this much, with the maximum salary of around this and minimum of around this. So these are figures which I have not spoken out while speaking, and that is for the complete graph that you can write. So you find that no confusing sentences have come up in this graph, and this is the complete graph written. I'll just go through it quickly. The graph illustrates the average salary, the maximum salary, and the minimum salary in 5 sectors in Australia in 2006. Overall, it's clear that engineering had the highest average salary, while employees in the travel sector earned the least salary on average. Also, sales had the biggest variation in salaries, while education and traveling sector had the least variation. In detail, the average salary in engineering was around 80,000 AUD. It was followed by sales with an average salary of 70,000 AUD. In IT and telecommunication, the average salaries were 20,000 AUD, less than sales. Finally, the least salaries were earned by employees in the traveling sector at 40,000 AUD. With regard to maximum and minimum salaries, sales had the highest variation in salaries, with a maximum salary of this and minimum of only this. In engineering also, there was a large variation in salary. These are the figures which I have given in the brackets. And then by contrast, in IT and telecommunication, education and traveling sector, the difference in salary was less substantial. In IT and telecommunication, the maximum salary was around this, while the minimum was around this, less than the maximum. Finally, in education and traveling, the difference in salary was only around this, with a maximum salary of around 67 to 69,000 AUD and a minimum of this much. So I hope you learned this graph in a better way, and now you can attempt it in a less confusing way. Thank you very much for watching patiently.